Welcome to the JB AV show. I thought I'd run through our stand. This wall is a metal stud wall, and you can see from the back here we've got the hollow wall anchors, and we've put these into the stud here, if you have a look here, and they're into the plaster here. So for our stand today, we've chosen to do the fixed brackets and the tilt brackets with metal studs. Unless it's reinforced, you can't really use full motion brackets. Come around here. We've got the Exceed brackets, or XCD. So starting from the small XCD, so that's a 7107. And these are very much a budget bracket. So you can see here, we've got the screws. So this screw attaches it to the wall plate. This is the cheapest way, but probably the worst way to secure your TV to a wall plate. The number one problem with this is getting access to that screw. When you've got a TV, you need a screwdriver that's a couple of foot long. The next thing, we show the screws that go into the back of the TV. I chose the shortest M6 screws that we got in the packaging. So one of the differences you'll notice on the Exceeds, you have these long screws on each one. I put some spacers just because they are just so long. And if I take this one and compare it to an Ezymount over here, you can see the shortest screw on an Ezymount. So that's what you're often going to use in today's slimmer TVs, as opposed to this. So in the case of having really long screws, what we end up having to do is go to Bunnings and buy some shorter M6 screws. The next thing I wanted to show is the tilt brackets. So let's pick out this tilt bracket. When you're building a very inexpensive tilt bracket, you're left with this kind of mechanism. So first thing to note, you can't tilt it when the TV is on the wall. The other thing, you only can pick two tilt positions. So we've got 5 degrees and 10 degrees. And when you open this, you'll notice that there are washers on the inside and outside of both of these. So inevitably you'll lose your washers during the process. So it's a little bit of a fiddly process. And once you've tilted it to say 10 degrees, then you can mount the TV. Now the issue with that is the tilt mechanism doesn't come out from the wall. So if you imagine trying to tilt this, the tilt mechanism will be hitting the wall, and the TV, certainly anything larger than a 55-inch, won't clear the wall. So the way it should be, and we'll jump ahead to the Ezymount and Vogels, the way it should be is like this. So as the Vogels tilts out, in fact I'll release this to show you, as it tilts out, it distances itself further from the wall. And you can see an Ezymount, so this is a VPT 155. This one in fact comes all the way out, and then you can tilt it. The other thing, not only can you tilt a decent bracket on the wall, but when you tilt it, it uses the weight of the TV to choose a position. So the Vogels you pull out to your 20 degrees, and then you can just leave it in position. No tightening or loosening screws. People ask about the VPT 155, is it the same deal as the Vogels? The VPT is made for an average weight TV, but if you have a heavier TV, you just need to tighten this screw a bit, and then you have the same thing. So you pull it out, you tilt it, and it'll stay in position. If it's a lighter TV or heavier TV, you've just got to adjust how tight it is on the screw. Right, jumping back to so this is sort of our inexpensive wall. The one thing to remember with TV brackets is, unfortunately, what a lot of manufacturers do is they kind of over specify. And so up the top here, we've got the Crest, which is, I believe, Bunnings' most popular bracket. And that's specified up to a 98-inch. And if you have a look at the Ezymount, two of the most popular brackets, this is called a VPF 80, and the VPF 80 specified up to, we commonly say anything 85 and below, there's a good bracket. Thing to remember is often the VESs on a larger TV is wider, so you can have 800 or even 850. So if you've got a larger TV like a 98-inch, the wall plate just isn't large enough for those TVs. So you've got to be very careful to check the specifications. The other thing is you want to hit 2 studs. So this is just wide enough to hit 2 average studs. But if you want to move your TV left or right, if you don't have exactly the right stud position, then you're in trouble. If you use, for example, a VPF 80 or a VBF 56, then you can actually choose a position. You hit your 2 studs, you can still move the TV left and right. For the larger TVs, 85, 100 inch, you've got the VPF 100. One of the things that I love, you've got 2 rails up here. With a wall mount, it puts a lot of stress on the top of the fittings. You can actually put, if you want, 2 fittings here, so you can hit the stud twice, here and here, and then you can put 1 fitting down the bottom. So it's a little more secure. The other thing you'll notice, 400, so there are some, I think it's just TCLs, there are some with Vesses that are 600 mil. So for that, you're going to have to go the VPF 100 because you've got 600 mil as opposed to 400 mil. Can't really convey this in a video, but the other thing is the thickness. So when I pick up this metal, it feels very thin, 1.5 mil about. And then you pick up, say, the VPF 80, it's a lot more solid. In fact, this one weighs 3 times as much as the Exceed. Yet this one is supposedly rated for 100 inch. You'd never use 100 inch on this. One of the other things, the holes, obviously they're not large enough for a GPO or cable management. The holes on these are larger. So if you're very budget conscious, and this is Australia's most popular bracket, so the vast majority of people will be going for this bracket, $149. But if you're very budget conscious, go for something like this, like a 56. The reason being a lot more secure. You've got sliding rails instead of those screws. People never attach those screws. Good thing about a sliding rail also is if it's a commercial venue and you need to secure it, you can put a lock through here and it's a real deterrent so that they can't just take off the rails. Up the top here, we've got the baby brother of the VPF 80, so the VMF 70. Just to show, a lot of people are asking, in the packaging you get these things. What's the deal here? Well, the truth is only in maybe a small percentage of cases you're actually going to put this attachment, and this allows an 8-degree tilt. So why put in an 8-degree tilt? Sometimes TVs are mounted just below downlights and you get the reflection of the light. So here, just for a simple little addition of a part, you can get around that problem by tilting the TV 8 degrees, and then it avoids those reflections. Majority of cases, hopefully you don't need to use that, but you can. So that comes standard, obviously, with the VPF 80 and the 70. So these are probably some of the most popular fixed brackets. If we move across to tilt brackets, we've got the basic SLT 510, and okay, not my choice of bracket. I'd rather have one of these. But one of the nice things, as opposed to the basic ones on the original wall, is that you can tilt it when the TV's on it. Right, moving on to the Vogel's tilt. It's a beautifully designed tilt, this one. The idea is, unlike the other Vogels, say the fixed brackets that we got on this side, you'll notice that it mounts low down, and that's intentionally because a lot of TVs, all the cabling is down low on the TV. So the idea is you have all the cabling, all the messy stuff hidden away, and at the top, when you want it to be nice and slick and clean, there's nothing there. So it has a really nice finish. Thing to remember about tilts, normally most jobs, the tilt is for the bedroom. Your seated position or your lying down position is very low, TV's up higher, so you have a tilt. For the Vogels, you've got a good 20 degrees. Yeah, beautiful design. 600 mil across, so you'll hit 2 studs. We go to the VPT 155, much wider wall plate, so a little bit more flexibility, just like the other brackets that we were talking about earlier. So you can mount it between 2 studs and it gives you a little bit of play left and right. Both of these arms can go in and out. So that means that you get a maximum of 5 degrees swivel left and right. The other thing about it coming out is you get access to behind the wall plate, behind the TV. So you get access behind the TV. And that's really useful if you want to change your power, paint the wall, get access to AV inputs. A few people have asked about this little bit at the top here. This one is called a micro adjustment. And actually I wish more brackets would have this. So the great thing about a micro adjustment is you put up a big 85. If it's not exactly level, because the TV is 2 meters across the top, you'll notice any lack of leveling. So just with a small Allen key change, you can get it perfectly level. So micro adjustments are great, very common on very high quality commercial brackets. So you notice here you've got a Vogel's, and that's got the same micro adjustments. So a really useful feature, that one. Vogel's, they use a fantastic click lock mechanism. So that's all one piece, no springs, nothing else. So very reliable, and it makes a nice loud snapping noise. So you know it's secure. VPT 155 has spring clips. So a little more basic, but still, you know, much better than screws, obviously, and a little more practical than even sliding bars. The thing to remember is most of these you can't secure, but in the case of this one, yeah, you can secure it for commercial premises. Down the bottom here, we've got the VPT 200. It's a gigantic monstrosity, agreed, but when you're mounting a huge TV, 85, 100 inch, what you need is you need clearance from the wall. So this gives you that clearance from the wall. The other thing is you've got a very long flexible VESA. So irrespective of what TV, you've got a total of 1 meter maximum. So it'll suit, I think, any TV. You notice how long that wall plate is, and you're probably wondering, you know, stud separation's not that much. Some jobs, people want to hit 3 studs. So this one, often you can hit all 3 studs. So just giving you that extra peace of mind. This one, like the one above, you use those spring clips, and you can just see how significant that that tilt mechanism is. So we've covered some great tilt brackets. Let's get on to some fixed brackets, and predominantly we've got Vogel's here, but we'll start from an absolute basic fixed bracket. So this is called an SLT 400. And it's kind of, if you've got a budget, how you should really build a bracket. You got a sliding bar, you can lock it for commercial jobs. It's very low profile, just nice and simple. And the thickness of the metal is thicker than any of the basic brackets there. So the exceeds and the crest. So it feels a lot more stable. So this one's particularly interesting now. So this is called a TVM 3205. You're thinking this is tiny, it's only 200 by 200. Well, if you look on the internet at most of the new 55 inch, most of them are 200 by 200. So the mounting points on the back of the TVs are getting really small because TVs for their size are getting lighter. So this one's an interesting one. Vogel specified up to only 50 inch. First thing you'll notice is just how strong that Vogel's metal is. It's carbonized steel, so much harder than what you get on standard Chinese brackets. Chinese brackets use a thing called, well, the steel called Q235, and it's just not that strong. So beautifully constructed metal. $69 is an interesting, it's an interesting amount of money in the sense of, if you look at any economy small bracket, so if you're buying a 32 inch or 40 inch TV, $69, how does it compare to the cheapest of the cheap? So if we look at this Exceed here, we've got the wrong screws, so I'm going to have to go to Bunnings and buy some screws. It's never going to be secure to the wall. So that one's going to be about the same price as this Vogel's. Now, what are the features? You have a look at this, they'll tell you, okay, it's got standoff. Not really. So this is what they call standoff. You can see it's created an angle, but the idea of a standoff is not that it's like this and then you've got to remount it. That doesn't make any sense, especially for a small TV. So it has standoff, but I'll show you in a moment what standoff really is. it's not secure and you've got the wrong screws. First thing you notice is the steel. It's just so much stronger. If I do that on the Exceed, it's gonna bend. Next thing you notice, instead of those screws, you've got the click lock. So if you wanna take your small TV off and put it on, that's it. The standoff is completely irrelevant for a smaller TV because you can just pick it up. Like an average 42 would be, what, 8 kilos. So you can just pick it up, put it on, move your TV, no problem. If I try to do that on the Exceed and I'm unscrewing and screwing it, it's gonna be a 10-15 minute exercise. $69, $59 plus your Bunnings trip, so you're at least at $69. So this one, for anything in your 40-inch, that's the way to go. Next, we go on to Vogels. So from today, we've reduced the retail price in Australia from $149 to $129. And that's a great price point. Just to give you an example, you've got that Exceed over here, which is a very flimsy, basic product, not very secure because it's very difficult to secure this bracket, and that's $109. You've got $149 for sort of one of the most, well, the most popular bracket in Australia, BPF 80, so $149. And right in between now, you've got the Vogels at $129. So it's a good price point in between. 600 mil across, so it hits most studs. Studs are either 600 or 450 mil across. And the good thing is most TVs, even the big 75s, for example, these days, they're 400 mil VESA. So you still get a little bit of play on where your TV goes. Obviously the finish is beautiful. The other thing is you've got that click lock. And you have these feet, these are called standoffs. So the idea is that you mount it, that's sitting there. You've got two hands free, so you can plug in your things, standoff up, and then you hear that click. So you know it's secure. So unlike the basic brackets that are not terribly secure, this one's a lot more secure. Jumping back to that mechanism here, if you have a look, you've got the screws, which I'm absolutely dead against because it's not safe. But then we've also got the Bunnings one here, and even things like this, we've seen the click locks, but not all of these are equal. You can see that one, it wasn't engaging. So you just got to be a bit more careful on that one. And you also notice the length here. So most TVs are about here. So I'm talking 75, 85, they're down here. So explain to me how you can release this if the TV's here. So not really well thought through. For a product that's so popular, they should get these details right. So we covered the click lock, we covered the standoffs. Now we go on to the Elite. So the Elite, it's only 15 mil away from the wall. So the Vogels is already very close, very beautiful, 22, 23 mil from the wall. Elite, you even go closer to the wall. So admittedly, it's harder for the installer, but the end result is amazing. And this one, instead of having the pull cable or the cable tie to pull down, this one you just do it just through moving the arms up or the TV upwards, and it automatically unclips itself. So you can see there, no cables required. So people ask me about this part here. What's the purpose of this rubber part here? So as you see, it moves up, which distances the bottom of the TV further away from the wall, or down, get it closer to the wall. The idea is, if your TV is not exactly perpendicular to the wall, you can adjust it so it's exactly perpendicular to the wall. The other thing you'll notice down here, you've got a whole bunch of teeth. That's for your cable management. So it's always good to have a little bit of extra cable, because when you remove the TV from the wall, you just want to have a little bit of cable play, but you can keep your cables nicely in place there. Oh, you notice also there's no fixings that you can see. These are just covers. So Vogels have this fantastic attention to detail that you'd expect from the Dutch. The last bracket we've got on the wall is a commercial bracket. So PFW 6800. 6800, so as the 8 would suggest, 800 mil across. And just to give you an idea of how this bracket operates, it's kind of similar to the consumer brackets. And there's a reason for that. A lot of the consumer brackets, they have sort of trickle down technology. So what they've learned on the commercial brackets will trickle down into the consumer brackets. But you can see the build is absolutely fantastic here. So this one, 160 kilos, but commercial bracket is 5 times tested. Any CE or consumer bracket will be 3 or 4 times tested. So if I pull this out, you'll see it opens up. You've got a little magnet here, and you've got different looking screws. These are self-centering screws. Obviously it's 600 mil, so it covers every kind of TV that we have, to my knowledge, within the consumer electronics range. So you'd mount this onto the back of the TV. This clips into place. And then when you put it on, you hear that same click-lock noise. So an audible noise. So why does it fold open? Well, here you can get access to the back of the TV, so you could pull up the TV and get access. And you don't need to unclip this part. So the idea is you lock it into place, and no matter what happens, it's going to be securely in place. As we mentioned before, these ones have the micro adjustment too. Micro adjustment is great as the panels get larger, so that you can always make sure that they're level. All right, so here we've got the DrillRight app. You get this in the packaging of all the Vogels, and when you open the DrillRight app, it'll ask you a bunch of things. The first sort of relevant question is, what's the distance between, so when you're setting up the bracket, you'll have this horizontal and vertical bars on the bracket. And they ask you the distance between that bottom part of the bar and the bottom of the TV. So let's just write any number. Let's go 20 centimeters. And then you go next. And then you just go next. And then here, if we go backwards, sorry, got to go a long way back because we've got a 75-inch. You'll notice, hey presto, there's a TV there. No TV, TV. So it actually does a little bit of a simulation of what your TV will look like on the wall. And you might want to confirm your TV position. And so you can see, oh, there's a mounting plate right there. So I entered the model number of the bracket, which was TVM 3645. And then it generates that image. So here we've got the Ezymount, the EES65OG. So Ezymount easel stand, 65 is the maximum size, 65 inch. The O meaning oak. So oak, that's actual real white oak. Any of these TV stands that I've seen have got this kind of synthetic wood. It is a real deal. And the G means grey. So you get actually everything within the packaging. So you get the soundbar mount, you've got extendable parts here too, and then this swivels 70 degrees each way. So if I have a look at the back, you'll notice as far as the swivel, you have these little notches here. That's to make sure it just doesn't swivel 360. And you also get some cables that will secure the TV to the wall. So in case you're worried about kids running by and knocking it over. The other difference between what you'll see in other bulk retail stores is that the legs are very wide on an Ezymount. So compared to the other ones, they'll wobble around a lot. This one, a lot more stable. Always better to mount your TV on the wall if you can, but some people can't make holes in their walls, so there's a great option. The last product on the stand is it's funny how much interest this one's garnered. This one is a Sonos One SL, and very popular product. JB sell a heap of these. One of the issues is if you have these on every desktop or whatever else around the house, it looks pretty ugly. So you could wall mount it, but the problem with wall mounting it is it's not always facing the right direction. You've got to pay for a wall mount, you've got to pay for a PowerPoint, GPO, conduit, the whole lot. It's really complicated. If you're getting an electrician to do the job, you pay for time. Often a better alternative is using the Indigo cradle. So it is called the SC.S1, S1 for Sonos One. And all you have to do is you make a hole and you squeeze that part together, and that's all you have to do, no tools required. And the Sonos just mounts in the cradle. You notice it's an absolutely perfect fit within the cradle. That's because it's designed just for the Sonos One. So once it's in the cradle, then you just put on the magnetic grill. So all of a sudden your music and your entertainment disappears into your ceiling. So you're left with a clean appearance. Right, so some people have wondered how this all fits together. So you've got two parts. So you put the two parts hand through the ceiling, and then you clip them together. So this clips down, and then the other side you do the same thing. Clips down, and then you just leave it in the ceiling like that. So the lip is larger than the hole. You've got a cutout template for the hole in case you're worried about not knowing the right size. And then from there you put the bezel on. So you'll see the teeth here. So it suits all kinds of thicknesses of plaster. And this one's been highly used, but you can see it clips together. And so once it's clipped together, you put the Sonos on. So you actually reach through. In a real situation, you reach through, you grab your Sonos, and you put it on the cradle. So that's your installation. No screws, nothing required.